So, when you think about hand traps, you usually think about monster hand traps. So, for example, the Ghost Sisters, you think about Droll Lockbird, maybe an Effect Veiler, etc. However, one type of hand trap you usually don't think about are actual hand traps, meaning a trap card that can be activated from the hand. Now, with that in mind, there are definitely still some traps that can be activated from the hand. So in today's video, I thought let's go over 5 hand traps that are actually traps. So the first card on my list is Harpy's Featherstorm. So to be fair, there are many archetype specific hand traps that are traps. For example, you have the Blackwing hand traps, which there's 3 Blackwing hand traps, which is crazy. However, I decided to put Harpy's Featherstorm on the list because it's actually a really good card. There's other ones too. There's again the Galaxy hand trap, but at the same time, I just felt like putting Harpy's Featherstorm on this list. So yeah, it's on this list. So what does Harpy's Featherstorm do? Well, long story short, it's a skill drain for everything. This includes the graveyard, the hand, banished, and obviously your opponent's field, but literally any monster effect activated is negated. Sure, this requires you to control one winged beast monster to activate its effect, but you're playing Harpies, and to activate it from the hand, you need to control a Harpy monster. However, at the same time, again, this card is mainly played in Harpies, so considering that, there's not really much concern there. A skill drain for everything is quite powerful in my opinion. Think about it, the fact that this card says graveyard means it's basically an Abyss Dweller. This card also turns off Ray. This card is basically a call by the grave because of the fact that it can stop hand traps as well. Literally, again, any monster effect activated can be negated by Harpy's Featherstorm. What's cool as well is this card, if set and destroyed by your opponent's card effect, can add a Harpy's Feather Duster to hand. However, the card is banned, so you can't really search it, but at the same time, the fact is that effect's there, that could potentially come up in the future, and so I think it's pretty cool for that to be there, and I thought I should mention it. With the new Harpy support in Sisters of the Rose, this card will definitely still be played because of how powerful it is. The next card on the list is Typhoon. Typhoon is the oldest hand trap of this list, coming out in Battle Pack 3. While this card may not seem that great at first, it actually is really good. This card was relevant when True Draco were a deck, as Typhoon outs Diagram, it can out any Floodgate you please, etc. The fact that this card is a trap card and not like a spell, for example, like Twin Twisters, means that you can out it even if your opponent has a card like Imperial Order. As well, this card again can be used to out Diagram on your opponent's turn, which is another practical use for this card. Now you might be saying, well, why could you do this if your opponent needs to control 2 spells and traps? Well, the thing is, you can easily activate it because Diagram usually will pop a set card, so that way you can search Heritage and then Heritage will draw you another card. However, because they control the 2, then you can use Typhoon on their Diagram. This card can also be relevant in other metas dependent on what the metagame is, because it's very effective at outing Floodgates. For example, if there's an Imperial Order-esque card in the future, Typhoon will be a great card to deal with it. Overall, the removal this card provides can be relevant dependent on the format, and so I had to put it on the list. The third card I'm going to talk about is Red Reboot. Red Reboot is a really good card for decks that can OTK. So basically, it completely stops your opponent from playing any traps for the rest of the turn. And considering trap decks rely on traps to be used, this card can spell the end for your opponent. So for example, if your opponent's playing Altergeist or Paleozoic and you activate a Red Reboot, you basically just won the game if you can OTK your opponent from then on. If you can't OTK your opponent, however, then you're in for a rough ride, as this card gives your opponent another trap card. However, it completely stops your opponent from playing any traps for the rest of the turn. This card is also a counter trap as well, meaning it can even respond to cards like Solemn Strike. So no matter what trap card the opponent has, this card is able to deal with it. Yes, yes, people could play cards like Dark Bribe to stop Red Reboot. However, that doesn't change the fact that this card is still very powerful. Judgment also stops this card, but that doesn't change the fact that Red Reboot will usually win you games if you can resolve it. Let's take a deck like Rongo Turbo. That deck can turbo out Rongo very effectively. However, it can also efficiently make Boral Sword an attack for game. Dependent on the variant, you can either go for Boral Sword and still deal a massive amount of damage, or you can also play a Goki variant and use the Gokis to help beat your opponent down. Regardless of the fact that you're losing card advantage by giving your opponent a free trap, and you have to pay half your life points, this card gives you tempo instead of card advantage. And if your opponent can't activate any traps and you just flat out reduce their life to 0, well, then giving your opponent the extra card and paying half your life doesn't matter. This is such a powerful tool for combo decks and definitely will see play in the future. The next card, however, is a card that does the opposite of Red Reboot and acts as an opposite to Red Reboot, which gives card advantage over tempo, and that card is Evenly Matched. I've already discussed Evenly Matched in a video from yesterday known as Is Evenly Matched Worth It? So if you want to go check it out, click in the corner in the top right corner of this video. That will bring you to that video and hopefully it's enjoyable. But regardless, back to this, Evenly Matched is most certainly powerful for control decks, as this enables you to be able to play while going second. That's not to say you can't play going second with any deck, but I'm saying Evenly Matched makes life a whole lot easier when going second, and obviously Evenly Matched is meant for going second. That's why you play Evenly Matched in the side deck. However, a lot of decks set up unbreakable turn 1 boards, or just boards that can be hard to deal with. However, if your opponent doesn't have a negate, then Evenly Matched can come down and can make sure you're still able to play. Regardless of losing your battle phase, this card can make such a difference, and that is 100% good. But is it worth it? As I've stated before, go check out the video in the top right corner. The final hand trap that is actually a trap that I want to talk about is Infinite Impermanence. Oh man, how I love this card. First, it's a trap card, meaning it plays around Call by the Grave. So when you're playing against a combo deck, like again, let's take the Rongo deck example, if they activate a Call by the Grave, that means you're essentially not able to resolve a card like Effect Veiler. However, with that in mind, Impermanence doesn't care about Call by the Grave, making it in that sense better than Effect Veiler. But second, because of how it works, Impermanence can be used on your turn. This means Imperm can be either an Effect Veiler or a Forbidden Chalice, making this card much better than both of them. To be fair, there are scenarios where Veiler or Chalice are better to play than Imperm. For example, Chalice can be used during damage step and Veiler is a monster, and if it's better to play those in a deck than Imperm, then that's the case. But in general, Imperm is a better card to play. For example, the fact that it's a hand trap and a Forbidden Chalice-esque card really comes up against a deck like Thunder Dragons, as Thunder Dragons can easily set up 2 Colossus and 1 Titan, or they can set up 3 Colossus very efficiently. And so with that, Impermanence is very effective at dealing with one of the Colossus, or depending on the scenario, you can also Imperm the Titan to make sure your opponent can't use its pop effect. Lastly, Imperm has additional effects if it was set. I think this is really cool from a card design perspective, as you have an incentive to set it, and while the incentive is not too crazy, it's there. But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't set it regardless, considering it's a trap, meaning you have to set it, and because of its clause, you have to control no other cards to activate it from your hand, so you have to set it regardless. But still, it's nice to see that there is an incentive for setting it. I love Imperm from a card design perspective, as it really is a great card, but not in a degenerate sense. And that's it. Those are 5 hand traps that aren't actually traps. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys want your idea featured maybe in the next video or an upcoming video, comment down below with your idea, and your comment might just be featured and turned into a video topic. If you guys want to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, go down into the description and support me on Patreon. It helps out quite immensely. As well, if you guys want to join me and other members of the BladeYGO community further than just watching my YouTube videos, go down into the description and join my Discord server. I'd love to have you guys there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and with that, I hope to see you soon.